Some of my friends clown on me for researching the divine feminine. They also clown on me for calling someone a high value man or a high value woman, saying, we all have value. Of course we do. We all have intrinsic value. We're all put here to accomplish the full extent of our dreams and desires and pour our love and traits onto others. That's the beautiful mosaic of life. However, I think it's good to be mindful of yourself. It never occurred to me before I looked into the divine feminine that people are indeed perceiving you. I think in this society where women are typically equal with things like jobs or voting or, that's really all I can think of, really. Maybe going to school and learning to read. I was like, femininity, who needs it? It's for the birds. A man should see me and see a total equal, right? They don't. They won't. If you're a man, I think a lot of the men around me in my circle were pretty, open-minded. We're young, we want to be equal. We all want to view each other as equal. We don't really view each other as men and women, but just people. Unfortunately, you will get viewed as men and women. And so I think little things that might not feel quite real, like the zodiac or feminine energy, masculine energy, that are typically dismissed as these woo kind of woman beliefs, I think they can be insanely beneficial tools to learning about yourself. When we look at self-improvement, I think the most important thing is you're self-aware. For example, I used to think self-improvement was like losing weight. I know now self-improvement is knowing yourself so well, you can plan every attack that could even ever happen to you before it does, so that you're bulletproof, I used to think, people should just accept me the way I am. There's nothing wrong with me. That's true. Knowing the things people could judge you about is going to make you so powerful. And that's the thing that 99% of people neglect to do. Because we've all been fed this narrative, and I hate saying this facetiously, we're all equal. I hope we are. I think we are. Society's not going to treat us that way. Why do you think there is a billion-dollar industry of trying to get men to take steroids? I'm just pulling that statistic out of the floor. I don't know if it's $1 billion, but probably near. Selling women Ozempic, Botox, lip filler. I look at my face right now and I'm happy with it. I could go to a doctor and be told, you need a nose job, you need lip filler, you need Botox, you need a chemical peel, keratin treatment, buccal fat removal. I mean, we have created whole industries based on the fact that it's guaranteed we're not going to get perceived as equals. There is competition in society, especially in America where we're a capitalist society. I think it's harmful to believe the narrative that you will get treated equally here. And I don't think that's giving in to it. I think it's a thing you should be mindful of, right? If I show up to my job in flip-flops and say, well, they shouldn't judge me based on my footwear, but someone else shows up to the job for an interview in dress shoes, that might be a factor, right? And I've hated this my whole life because I really think looks are quite shallow. I think a lot of, especially women, just because I follow this women content, they're mindful that they're being judged. Now, I'm not saying women should go out and try to dress as feminine as possible. I'm saying maybe use that to your advantage if you're the only female in the workplace. If you're a man and you're thinking, I don't need to be masculine in a traditional sense, I agree. Maybe when dating, giving into some of those more traditional roles might give you an advantage to stand out if a girl's going out with multiple guys and trying to decide which one is the best. I think we distance ourselves so far from the fact that we are animals because it sucks and it's shallow. But unfortunately, we're still ruled by those animal chemicals. I think that's the real reason we've not become this egalitarian utopia that I would sure love us to be. The doors feminine energy has opened for me is more of being aware the kind of things that change your perception. even if that alone wasn't beneficial, like knowing how to get the door held open for me, I think things like understanding the colors you wear will change people's perception of you. Pink hair theory is a thing I've heard a lot, that pink hair just makes people happy. When you have it, you get treated the best. I've heard this from a lot of people who have dyed their hair pink. I've had a lot of random people come up to me and be like, your hair is so fun. I love your hair. It reminds me of someone I know, blah, blah, blah. You know, blondes. Blondes are very sought after, yet simultaneously put down because it's seen as something very, it's just a status symbol, you know? Gray hair in women, it's seen as something very empowering, sometimes seen as a rejection of traditional beauty standards, even though it's really just an inaction to dye your hair from your natural color. You know, every little thing about you is gonna convey something. If I didn't have my nails done, I would be perceived as more masculine. If I had them really long, I'd be seen as maybe something negative, you know? I just want you to understand you are the puppet master. This physical body is not you. You are your soul and your heart and your beliefs and all the love and goals inside of you, the ambition, the treatment of others. This is the puppet. Do whatever you want with it. You know, people who get tattoos, I would say maybe a lot of them are more rebellious or free. They're creative. They don't care. People might judge that, you know. For me, I never got tattoos because I didn't want anything else people could look at and have a clue about me. You know, having dyed hair, I decided if that alienates me from certain groups, that's a risk I'm willing to take. I don't think those are groups I want to be a part of anyway, you know? Now, if I were going to be the president of the United States, would I have pink hair? That's another question. I want you to understand, use your puppet to your advantage. It's like a house. All the important stuff is on the inside. You can decorate it to convey whatever you like. If I put a ton of crap in the yard, you're probably going to think I'm a lunatic, even if the inside of my house is spotless. You know, if I decorate it real nice for Christmas, you're going to think, what a classy person, even if I have 37 shoes by my front door. Be the puppet master. Don't think you are the puppet. You're the one controlling the puppet. Ask yourself, what can I do with this puppet to help me be the most successful puppet master?